And crime and violence must stop.
Good morning to everybody, and bless up again to Nicardo Media House. And the morning insider is here again. Happy Tuesday. Glad to be here again. Doing another morning insider to you guys. Look, the JPL, the quarterfinals, finally come to an end, and I'm saying, man, it was an exciting two-legged games that played. The Tivoli Mobile game, that return leg back to Sabina Park. Look, the people got their money's worth. It was a very, very interesting game as well. The Cavalier game and the Portmore, not so much as excited, but I'm going to get into it. And also, look, Damion Lowe got embarrassed in the Saudi Pro League yesterday versus Al Nassr. No Cristiano Ronaldo, but guess what? The party still go on to keep, and it's 9-0. I'm going to get into that, and also a little bit more on the Unity Cup. That's all coming up in the morning insider. But you cannot write it. You cannot write this script. Even the dog run on the pitch at Sabina Park after all that drama, all that excitement, was unfolding in that game. But look, man, this is why I love the beautiful game of football. Look, me personally, I'm doing a 12 to 15 hour shift, from 5, 6 in the morning up. Got off work, got home, get to watch that big game in the Italian Serie A, Milan, AS Roma, travel to Atalanta to play that game. The top 4 race in the Serie A, is heating up as well. The championship, watch that Sheffield game, they battered Bristol City, watch some NBA, the JPL final. So look, my body being overworked, but this is why I love sports. This is why I'm doing it, and I'm going to get into it. But guess what? I'm drained, I'm tired, and I'm going to bring you guys a beautiful show, and I'm going to get into it after this. It is the JPL in 5. Look, man, Portmore, came to a last again, yet again in the quarterfinal. What happened last season in the playoff, the same result versus Arnett Garden, that same result come back to haunt them again. 1-1 draw in the first leg, as it was at Sabina Park versus Arnett Garden. The same with Cavalier, they lost the second leg 1-0. They managed not to get any goal. And look, everybody who's been watching the JPL, been watching Portmore United, knowing that, look, this team need a striker, but the second best defensive team in the league. Look, if you ask me, they kind of surprised me a little bit, in the playoff, coming out, with a little bit of different formation, different system, but a little bit still played a little bit slower. Need to move the ball a little bit more quicker. But the Cavalier team look really jaded, and I don't know if they're tired. They played loads of football over the last 20 to 24 months. Football playing. Local football playing. Champions League football. So they've been playing, been run wreck. With their legs, but it wasn't the best of games. But I must say, Busy Campbell made a difference, in that game. Win that game for Cavalier, stepped up when they needed. And also, Rudolph Speid actually speak after the game, and this is what Rudolph Speid have to say.
It was a very difficult game, but champions do what champions do, and you found a way to win.
Yeah, and first I must say, this is one of the hardest games we have ever played. Hats off to Portmore, they're really stuck in there and give us a hard time. And I must say that their defense is really first rate. Yeah, but with all, this has been one of the hardest campaigns for us. I'm just proud of the guys that were able to pull it off.
And in several conversations, we've spoken about Dwayne Atkinson, him being one of, if not the best player in the Caribbean. And that's what the best players in the Caribbean would do, score a pivotal goal.
True, and he promised us that he was going to do it. So even when he started to up, we kept in him because we believe in him, and he was able to come up with the goods.
And coach, you've played a lot of football this season. Extra time here tonight, and in a couple of days you'll have to travel to Montego Bay to face Arnett Gardens for that first leg, semi-final. Well, what's it going to be like?
Difficult. We have been really playing straight for almost 2 years without any rest, and we don't have a big squad because a lot of the young players that we have are very inexperienced. They are really more work in progress for next year. But I mean, and Jalmar, I'm not sure if he can play. Stein is still struggling to come back. But that's what champions made of. When the going get tough, the tough gets going. That's what we are made of.
And that's very true, coach. Thank you very much for your time, and I'll see you Thursday.
You're welcome.
But look, Cavalier is back in the semi-final again, and they will go on to play as what they did last season. Go on to play the Arnett Garden. But for Portmore United, they struggle for goals. They look for a team that the second best defensive record in the league. Their top scorer is 5 goals. I don't know if that player name is Grizzle or something like that, but he scored 5 goals. The last 2 seasons, Shavana Walsh, last season he scored 9 goals, and before that he scored 8 goals. So that's 17 goals in his last 2 seasons for Portmore United. And you will say, should they have go out there and get a number 9 in that market, someone that can replace? But when you look at the likes of how Portmore been playing with Javier Brown, with Romeo Guthrie up front, look, the Emilio Rosso, that penalty missed, in the 23rd minute, you just can't. You don't know what to do from it, because look, that penalty that he missed in the first quarter of the game, that should at least, ball should have gone in the back of the net, 1-0 up for Portmore. And look, Portmore, if you ask me, was the better team over the two-legged, but Cavalier got the most important goal in Busy Atkinson, and that was a goal came. That game went into extra time. I think that came in the 97th minute. But look, Cavalier versus Arnett Garden in the semi-final at Mobile. Yeah, Arnett Garden. We saw Fabian Reed actually did an interview before the quarterfinal of the playoff start, and he said, look, he loved to play against Cavalier football team.
No, I not fear. I not really fear nobody still in about. You see, to be honest, you see Cavaliers, I like them teams still, but I not really fear them. I just like them team. It's a team like where togetherness and ears them a play, so they know them one another, but we not really fear them.
Arnett Garden they haven't won a game since in the last 8 versus Cavalier. So it's going to be a big moment. It's going to be at Jam Pack Arena down there in at Catherine Hall, but Rudolph Speid versus Xavier Gilbert, it's going to be a lovely game. Thursday again, the JPL semi-final return. But I must say, good luck, to Portmore moving forward. They just need to have a little bit of extra bodies around that squad, and they will be a contenders again for that Premier League title. Big club, rich history. I think the last team that did back-to-back, in the JPL to win it back-to-back. So they will come stronger, but it's all up to what they will do in the off season to get a number 9. But moving on to the excited game, Mobile versus Tivoli, where all the drama took place in that game at Sabina Park. As I said, Eve the dog take a little piece of the action and ran on the pitch. Look, not so much, I would say probably the first 15 minutes of that game, it was stopped. It was stop and go, so much set piece, throw in, the referee continued to blow his whistle for a foul. The game was just nasty. Jordan Fletcher at one point got knocked out in the game, and it go even back to the first leg, that played, piece of that game played at Sabina Park. Then it moved to Stadium East. Bad refereeing, Demara Phillips, should he have played that game in the second leg with that bad challenge that he made, in that first leg, so it was that game. It was a lot of referee blunders, could look, even the red cards that happened in the game, Lennox Russell got back-to-back red card in the game, so a lot of stuff happened in that Tivoli, and Mobile game, but it was a very exciting game. Look, Mobile, the deeper squad, the better squad, the more informed team, but I would say this Tivoli team, they let themselves down, they let Jerome Waite down, they let the community down. Even one point, a lot of missile, were throwing on the pitch, towards the referee. Bad decision. Look, Tivoli fans will have their say, is it a red card? Jordan Fletcher missed penalty. So everything happened in the second leg, in the last quarter of the game, from the 73rd minute when Jordan Fletcher missed that penalty. These are the stuff that happened. Look, Nicholas Clark, the keeper, saved the penalty, and I don't know what happened after. He just loses head, he just loses everything, and he just was going right off. The legendary keeper Hazel Scott was trying to get a hold of him, trying to keep him calm. Even at one point after he got red card, Leslie Scott actually got a red card as well. So is it Robbie Scott? I don't know but I know the keeper name is Scott, but I think it's Ezra Scott. But look, that's all unfold. And also Lennox Russell got red card, back-to-back red card. He got a red card versus Mobier in the same fixture. The last game before we go into the postseason, he got a red card in that game as well. You understand? So, and he came back. Look, you will say it's too silly yellow card, and he shouldn't go on to he touched the goalkeeper. I don't even know how to sum it up on how Lennox Russell really got 2 yellow cards in that game when his team was already down, 1 man down. And kudos to Tiffany, they came back and actually scored a goal. But look, as I said, missile through on the pitch, even the dark take a piece of the action. Brian Brown, scored that goal from a counter attack from Turkleman, very good assist from Owen Garden, and actually, Nikolai Fuller. You just don't want to see that moment happen in that game. You don't want to see that happen where he got injured. He was screaming, he was crying for pain on the ground. But look, and again, Tivoli scored, right around the 93rd, 94th minute. Think they would get another opportunity, but it just didn't came. But Jerry, this is what Jerome Wade have said after the game. Jerome Wade and T.Gat Davis actually spoke after the game, and this is what they have to say for the respect of their team.
Honestly, you see, you reach a point in the football right now. You have to be more clinical one, you have to be more organized, you have to be more like a team, because it's going to the semi-final now.
And it's going to be really difficult in the semi-final against Mount Pleasant. What did you see specifically that you want to brush up on?
It's going to be difficult for them to, that's for sure. Yeah, so it's not a one-sided thing. So, we all have to do is prepare ourselves to face Mount Pleasant. We know it's a good team, so we have to just prepare ourselves.
I'm Wade, head coach of Tivoli. And coach, you must be extremely disappointed with how that game ended up.
Yes, definitely. And the level and discipline, that cost us the game. Outside of that, the officiating, we still need to, see what can be done about these local referees. They really want to step up.
And coach, this Tivoli team, you've been here 2 seasons now, 2 times in the playoffs, 2 times eliminated in the quarterfinals. What do you see in your future and this Tivoli team's future?
Put it this way, we're going to see what is what, not to talk about it now, but I'd have to just, sit down and revamp all what I need to revamp and move forward.
So look at it now. One of the final will play at Mobier, and I would say the PFLJ, Chris Williams, and actually, who's that? I forgot his name. Owen Hill. This was the blockbuster game. They were all gambling that will happen. The Mobier and Mount Pleasant, they were expecting it, and it happened. It will be one for the history books at capturing all that. Mobier will play Mount Pleasant, the North Coast, the West will Europe again. And football nice again, in the Jamaican Premier League. And look, I must say, Mobier, they haven't defeat or get a positive result, from Mount Pleasant in the last 10 games. They haven't win in the last 10 games. So look, they got thumped up in one of the game. I think they drew one of the game this season. That's the only thing Mobier have done versus Mount Pleasant this season. So look, the PFLJ, they got the fixture that they want. Arnett Guard and Cavalier will play first and Thursday, and then the last game, on Thursday will be Mount Pleasant and Mobier. Look, very good, going to be a very good game. T-Gat versus Tapa Whitmore, 2 former reggae boy player going at it in the dugout as well. So look, it will be a big rival game. Look at even when both teams played at Catchinal, when teams played at Jackson, it's a Champak Arena. But look, it's a lovely game. Look, my mind is just running at this moment. It's actually over midnight doing this video right after the games finished at Sabina Park, but can't say anything more. I love it. I enjoy the game. But moving on though, one of the last thing that I'm going to talk about, Damion Lowe got embarrassed by Al Nassr at his home ground 9-0 without a Cristiano Ronaldo. But that didn't really sums up the season that Damion Lowe is having. I think this is one of his better seasons, you know, in recent times. You know, he's playing really good. I think he's one of the most standout defender for his club at this moment. You know, they in the relegation, 3 games left back. They will have teams that in around the relegation zone as well that they will play. I mean, look, they can escape, but that 9-0 victory, the biggest defeat of the season so far, that will put at 10. You know, it's up to them if they're going to leave that 9-0 right there and move on to the next game. I know that, look, 9 points on the table, they need to go and collect at least 6 points so they can save their season not to go down to the second tier league. But this is some of Damion Lowe, you know, stats, you know, throughout the campaign. You know, long ball accuracy, you know, is 23rd on that chart as well. You know, you have 52% long ball accuracy. You know, interception, you know, you average 2.3 interception per game. You know, it's 47 overall and it's 8th on that chart as well. You know, clearance, 127 clearance, you know, in the season so far in the Saudi Pro League, and he averaged 6.2 clearance per game, and he's actually 3rd on that chart. And look, he picked up 1 red card, you know, I think it was in the season. He picked up a red card, you know, where he came on and just got two quick yellow card. But other than that, 4 yellow card picked up, you know, so he's having a okay season, you know. So big up to Damion Lowe. But the 9-0 though, that's an embarrass, you know. It was all about, I was watching that game and I was looking at actually, that was the first game I was actually watching, you know, when I got home. I got to start watch that game just around the 55-68 minute. Then I kind of switched off a little bit and kind of watching, you know, the Seria A and the championship playoff. But other than that, look, the Unity Cup, Nigeria, you know, look, FIFA, you know, finally come to an agreement with the organizers for the Unity Cup that, look, the tournament is cleared by FIFA, and the star-studded players that will miss, you know, the Unity Cup for Nigerian team, and the players that expect to be in that squad, oh my God, you cannot write it off. You know, this Nigeria team is a powerhouse in African football when it comes on to individual talent that they can name on a squad sheet. Yeah, but if you look at it, man, then it's right up there on the screen. Look at the bodies. Yeah, look at the players that they can call up, and those players, they are available. So it's up to Nigeria to pick who they will, you know, but it's up to Nigeria to pick which player they want to be, you know, in the squad for the Unity Cup going forward. As again, you know, they will pick at least up to probably around 7 local players and some overseas players that playing in the diaspora. But again, it will be you know, out of the 2 African teams, Nigeria team will be the strongest. Yes, they will be the strongest, you know, squad in this tournament coming up. And also, look, Ghana, nothing coming out of Ghana as yet. You know, hopefully as the weekend is drawing closer, we actually get more news and more confirmation. You know, hopefully we can get the Reggae Boy team by the end of the weekend. So people, that's it, man. Bless upon yourself, and thanks for watching. This is Nicardo Media House. I'm out. Remember, probably tomorrow, yeah, we're going to do the preview, or Thursday on the Morning Insider, preview the game Cavalier versus Arnett, Mount Pleasant versus Mobile, the North Coast derby, and the West Coast. Remember, big up on yourself, you know. Salute, I'm out.